Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Broadway Jets YouTube channel. You'll know me from Twitter as NYJ Mike. I'm joined as always by the master of receipts, NYJ Matt. And Matt, today we have a very special guest, my own father, Elliot. Thanks for
All
joining
right.
us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes.
Welcome to the program. We're going to go ahead and debate a Twitter conversation we had yesterday with Klecko versus Gastineau. Who is the better Jet? And to set the stage, a lot of people come forward and immediately hit you with Klecko. I would say probably 7 out of 10 people go with Klecko. But Elliot, you grew up with this team. From your opinion, we'll go through the takes that people had on Twitter, but from your opinion, when you look at Mark Gastineau and Joe Klecko, who do you think was the more impactful and the better Jet?
Wow. Well, this is not even that tough of a decision for me. To me, it was Mark Gastineau by a nice amount because
Wow.
I love Klecko. We all do. He was the better value draft pick. He was a 6th rounder. Mark Gastineau was 2nd rounder. People don't know all that. But I think that watching the game, the much more disruptive player was Mark Gastineau. So, like, if you could put him like right now, Joe Klecko is a much better version of Quinnen Williams. Gastineau is like a type of guy like Micah Parsons. So who would you rather have on your team? The guy who causes havoc, he causes holding penalties, he disrupts plays, or the workman-like strong guy who could be moved to every position. Klecko is great, but much more impactful, in my opinion, with Mark Gastineau.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a lot of the takes I'll give you from their perspective of Team Klecko. You look at the 3 Pro Bowls at 3 different positions. You look at a D tackle performing with what, Mike, 78 career sacks or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
and another big Klecko argument is if you're looking at the Hall of Fame voting right now, there's a good chance Klecko will get in this year. Gastineau doesn't really have that level of Hall of Fame voting. And a lot of people attribute that to the players value Klecko more of what he did. What are your thoughts around like the 3 different positions, the value that he's bringing? Because right now, I don't know why Gastineau hasn't been discussed. He had 107 sacks in 107 games and then had 7 in the season that he retired through 7 games. He retired early. So what if he would have played another 2 seasons?
And
would
he
he have
had
had 130?
And 8.5 sacks in the playoffs in 7 games.
That's right. So I think Mark Gastineau gets hurt by the scumbag factor, if we want to call it that.
Okay.
Because, no, really, in his real life, he's not a good guy. He beat up his wife. He was in prison. He punched someone out in Studio 54. He made that ridiculous dance, which is so stupid. It started all this crap that they have now. Before him, people used to hand the ball to the referee. They made a good play. They're not jumping around. He started that. But that being said, that the better player on the field, in my opinion, watching all those games is Mark Gastineau. It's just for sure. I mean, and I love Joe Klecko. Joe Klecko's a better guy. He has a son who's in the NFL. He's a workman-like player. He played 3 positions. He never complained. He's not flashy. But really, I mean, if you told me I could have a young Joe Klecko or a young Mark Gastineau, give me the psychopath anytime.
And Gastineau, you call it out, right? I think he had an arrest at a point. He's done a really good job of getting clear current state, but a lot of people also said that he was the one in the locker room, him doing the dance. The players didn't really like it. He didn't give a fuck. He kept doing it anyway. So there was a bit of tension there. Klecko and Marty Lyons are best friends. I read Marty Lyons' book. They became so close in mentorship. And Marty Lyons calls out there that Gastineau was more of, we play with them for 60 minutes, and that was it. And they did have their bonding after everything kind of went down, but it's a very fair point of why Gastineau from like all field issues might not be discussed as much. I think Drew from New Jersey had the best take. 80s fathers, for the most part, liked Klecko. 80s kids, the younger generation, loved Gastineau. And that was where you're sitting when you were that age of him being the more impactful guy. Mike, from your perspective, you're a big stat guy. We were talking about it earlier. You probably lean Gastineau, but see the value in Klecko as well.
Yeah, I mean, for Klecko to have 20 sacks is just absurd in 1981. And finally, they went back and recounted the stats before 1982 for sacks, which is, I don't know why it took so long for the NFL to do that, but official stats now, and it's going to help Klecko's Hall of Fame case. Maybe we'll have some kind of campaign for Gastineau at some point. But man, 3 years for Gastineau, 20 sacks, 1922 is just ridiculous. Never saw numbers like that. The Jets, obviously the sack exchange, 81, they had 65 sacks. as a team. I mean, these are just gaudy numbers. And Klecko, the other thing with him too is, he started off his career terrific before 1982, and then he got hurt, and only played 2 games in 82. And then he had that one All-Pro season in 85, but it's just the Gastineau numbers are ridiculous. I mean, I can't even imagine watching a Jets player have 22 sacks.
And you forget they didn't really count pressures. If someone did that, the guy was all over. He had a sick motor. He tried hard. So I just watched back to the 86 game where everyone blames him, rightfully so. He was a terrible penalty on Bernie Kosar with roughing the passer, but he played his heart out in that game. And the Jets made 8,000 other mistakes that caused them to lose. He's not the reason they lost that game. He always gets a bad rap because he's just not a good guy after the field, off the field. But oh boy, I think he's a better player.
Two top 3 finishes in Defensive Player of the Year, 3 top 5s, 4 top 7s.
I don't even know that. I just
Elliot's like, I watched the games. I knew.
3 All-Pro ones. Which one, Matt?
Well, the Marty Lyons called that out too, Elliot. That playoff
get him on the pod.
We will get Marty Lyons on the pod 100%. I've talked with his foundation a bunch. They do great stuff over there, but he calls out that game. And Elliot, everything you said, he said the same thing. The Jets made a dozen mistakes leading up to that penalty. He said it was also
at the end when he took the sack, O'Brien, it killed them. They could have won it 18 times. It's not that one play.
Exactly. So a lot of people refer to that game as a knock on Gastineau, when a lot of the people that actually played in that game said, look, it was a lot that went into it. Now, Paul Riley, Mike, you get with Paul a lot on Twitter.
Oh, my lawyer. Yeah.
He said, I've had season tickets since 1978.
He says it every single tweet.
Yeah, I saw every home game Gastineau played but one. It's not close. Klecko is a more dominant pass rusher and better against the run. Teams ran at Gastineau. So, I mean, I've seen a few full games from the 80s. It's very fun to watch the highlight tapes of them murdering people, but you don't really see when they run to Gastineau's side, how effective was he? Anything stick out, Elliot, in that matter of teams going against the run on him?
That guy is right about that. Gastineau is not a good player against the run. He only cared about pass rushes. That's in the beginning when he first came. I don't even think they played him on running downs a lot of times. He was more like a specialty guy, but it's still much more impactful to have. It's so rare to find such a gifted pass rusher. So I still give him the nod, but he is right about the fact that Joe Klecko was better against the run, no doubt.
Yeah, I think when you look at the stats and playing on the field, I think a lot of people are now leaning more Gastineau when they see the stats, when they get everything in the full picture. But when you look at, if you want someone to represent your team, be a Jet that you're proud of, I think a lot of people like Klecko too, based on what he is on the field and off the field.
I wish he wasn't so ugly. He's so ugly.
No, Klecko looks great. He's great. I love Joe Klecko too. I have a Klecko jersey, which is fantastic. It's like a throwback one that we were in the game eating a hot dog. I got a ketchup stain on it, and I was so drunk I forgot to wash it for a month. So it sat in the back of my car. So the jersey's fully ruined. But it's fun that we have two guys that you can look back on in a good decade, and we're not having a debate to
underrated decade, the 80s for the Jets.
The Jets, a few things go right. They don't put. Also, if the scumbag Don Shula doesn't put the tarp on the, if he put a tarp on the field, we would have won that game for sure.
AJ Dewey.
They just are snake bit they were, but at least then they were competitive. They were in the the conversation. This last decade was viciously bad. I feel sorry for you guys. You guys are great fans. You deserve better.
They don't happen. You did it too.
I'm already beaten down. I can't even.
Now you have.
Elliot's the best type of fan though, because he's not an older fan who it's always poor me. Back in my day, I sat through the 90s. I had the set. You're not that type of fan. You also aren't the negative one where now it's you have to prove to me that you're good. You said, hey, look, the team that we had in 2022, they were good enough to make the playoffs, and you said that from the beginning of the year. A lot of older fans will say, outside of Coach Ray has them going 12-5 every year, which I love. But a lot of older fans will be like, no, they have to make the playoffs before I can consider them good or at all. Well, hey, you're 7-4 this year. And the three of us were very much in that positive mindset. So, Elliot, we appreciate from a fan of your nature to continue to bring that positive energy, because a lot of fans your age don't do that.
Listen, like the good umpire, call him as I see him. I like the talent on the Jets now, and I think they were heading by far in the right direction, but we can't even think of keeping Zach. I want to throw. I can't stomach him. He's garbage. We have to have a real quarterback, whether it's Jimmy G, God willing, Aaron Rodgers, whatever. And we can go far. This team is good.
I think it's going to be Rodgers. I really do.
Good,
I'm
please,
getting like way too worked up because now I'm going to be very disappointed.
People are going to be getting worked up watching the video and Megan Fox in the background behind Elliot right now.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
Can't get better than that.
That's
the
real man cave. Yeah.
Yeah. You can see some of these old Jets. Look,
there they are.
They are. All
Jets
my
on the wall.
James Hasty and Wesley Walker and all the Stacks Exchange, all the guys. Darryl Ray. People don't know him.
Darryl Ray is so cool. We were watching the 82 Jets Bengals wild card game, the one whenever I was home, and Darryl Ray 98-yard pick six is so cool.
Oh my god, beautiful.
Holy shit. Lance Mel. Those are good teams, man.
Those are good teams. We were right in there all the time, you know.
So what more?
All right, we'll have another time. There's gonna be when we do, and it's gonna be unbelievable.
It'll be even sweeter. But one more thing about Gastineau. What happened at the end of his career? So
I know.
You know, yeah, I don't know the story.
His wife, he was dating a hot actress wife, and I think she had cancer, and he wanted to retire to be with her.
Brigitte, that was Drago's wife and Rocky 3 before. Yeah, that's crazy thing. But then he beat up his second wife. That was terrible. That's terrible. He hit her. He has some problems in his life, but now I feel so sorry for him. He has dementia. He has Alzheimer's. He's got I think he has cancer. The poor man. He got hit in the head so many times. He was a relentless player. The guy just gave up his body.
Well, some of the best Jets, Klecko and Gastineau.
Yeah, listen, and this is no disrespect to Klecko. I love him. Every Jet fan of my age loves him. It breaks my heart to say bad things about him, but you're asking me a point, like my honest opinion, and I have to tell you.
That's it.
I like it too because it's a little bit against the grain, and also you look at the Jets retired numbers, which is interesting. You have Klecko 73 retired, Gastineau's 99 is still out there. We've seen very recent Jets wear it. So
who was 99? Brian Thomas was 99 for a long time.
Sure, that's an embarrassment.
Steve McClendon.
I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. They should honor this man. This guy gave his guts for the Jets. He off the field, we said it's not good, but on the field, you can't try harder than that guy did.
I would be a big proponent in 99 being retired. We did make a video a couple weeks ago about what they're going to do for Revis and Elliot. They haven't let anyone wear Revis since Phil Adams, which we don't want to go into his story. But
you know what happened with Phil Adams? I mean, murdered his family. It's tough.
Oh my god,
horrible. He's 24. He wore 24, and I think one other guy was able to wear 24. Darius Reynaud had it for a game. So Elliot, they are planning to retire Revis's number definitely.
That's a no-brainer. That should have been the second he left. They should never be honest.
Well, maybe the second time. When he went to the Patriots. Did fucking what's his face wear 24? Was Dimitri Patterson supposed to wear 24 then he went AWOL?
No.
He was. And it's funny because if the Jets were to retire Revis and Gastineau, I don't think they're gonna do Gastineau anytime soon. They would have 7 numbers retired. It'd be like the 4th most out of any NFL franchise, and the Jets like their winning percentage doesn't align with that because the teams that have like the most retired are like the 49ers, the Giants, the Cowboys. It's very interesting.
The Steelers should be crazy.
I'm sure the Steelers do from the 70s. All of their guys. Look.
All right. Well, hey, it's a debate we'll continue to have. I'm sure we can revisit in 5 years and talk about the more information that comes out. Elliot, your idea of PFF going back and rewatching the 80s film and letting you know how many pressures they had, how many QB hits they had. They didn't even have a sack until what, 80? When did they institute the sack? 82?
It was 82. But now they went back and you could see sacks.
So they went back and did it. They got to do that again for everything.
You can't see tackles. You can't see shit.
Pressures are such an underrated stat. It's so important. It causes havoc, pressures, and they don't talk about it enough. Sometimes sacks, you get a cheap one too. The guy falls around and he touches him on the floor. I mean, pressure is I think more or at least as important as sacks, and they have to give it more play.
The old Calvin Pace sack where the quarterback would just fall down. I love Calvin Pace.
All right. Well, Elliot, thanks for hopping on. We'll definitely have you on again soon. If you think of any topics from like 80s, 90s Jets that are a good debate topic, we'll bring it back and the three of us will come.
I'm going to tell you one other topic that doesn't have anything to do with the Jets. It's every team in football. I don't like the victory formation at the end of the game. I always say that. Why? You should be able to, if you don't get a yard, then the clock should not keep going. You should be able to have to get a yard or the clock keeps going. You cannot just fall on the ball and take a knee. It makes the end of the game sickening. You should force the people to play till the end. Unless it's like a 10-point lead or something, then fine. But if it's within one score, you have to get a yard. You can't just go kneel on the ball, I think.
It's such a good take, because if you think under 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, out of bounds, like until the ball's set, it doesn't reset. Or
there's already rules that change at the end of the game.
What it should be is under 4 minutes, the clock will continue if you get a yard. If you're stopped behind the line of scrimmage with under 4 minutes, clock stops. I think if you do, so that's why if you do that every down, the game will last 6 hours. But if you do that with under 4 in the fourth quarter, it'll always discourage teams from parking the bus or kneeling when there's a minute 43 left and the team has no timeouts.
Right. You might
have it's a great debate to have. We should bring that forward.
Tweet at Roger Goodell.
All right. Well,
all right, guys. Listen, it was so nice to talk with you. The best. I love watching the games, the road games. You guys are at all the home games, but I love watching the road games with you.
Now that season tickets are up 25% year over year, I don't know how much longer we're going to keep them for.
You both make a lot of money, you two son of a gun.
All right. Thank you, Elliot. Enjoy the games today, guys.
All right. You too.